Hello everybody, Anthony is here. In this video I'll talk about this particular sculpting technique that allows you to achieve a really interesting results inside 3D code, and I think it is really specific to 3D code. You can't really get it anywhere else. But before I start talking about it, I just wanted to tell you guys that I became a 3D code affiliate, so if you use a promo code from the description you can get a $50 discount on purchase of the full 3D code license, and I'll get a little percentage of that myself. This is a limited only 3 users and only for 2 weeks, so another promo code I will publish in 2 weeks when I'll publish another video. Original idea was that I really wanted to get stuff done inside 3D code which will look a bit more rough, a bit more expressive, like the sculpts that you can see done in clay in real world. I think I achieved it maybe by 80%. I achieved kind of the look of it. I would still play around and try to perfect it, but I'm kind of quite happy with the result because this stuff is still really hard to do in sculpting softwares, and the voxels they give you probably the best possible way of achieving this look. So then there will be a time lapse of about 50 minutes. I'll comment on top of it, and in the very end I will also showcase a 3D print of this head which I've done just recently on my 3D printer. So stay tuned, or we'll skip through. Feel free to skip through the whole video and then jump to the end to see it. Okay, so I just start with the simple head that comes in with the 3D code, and I turn it all into one voxel layer. So then I have everything combined, like a nose and ears. And I'm using the toothpath brush right here. Toothpath gives it a bit more organic cuts, and they kind of flow and then they freeze in place. And toothpath and muscle brush would be like one of the most common brushes I'll be using here. So then I'm play around a lot with the alphas. So this kind of alpha gives a much more interesting result for the kind of this curly hair. I was thinking originally to have some type of a Roman bust, and I was looking at some type of Roman sculptures, getting the eyebrows up. And really it's all about layering these brushes. So I'm now using the curve brush. And curve brush is quite important because unlike a toothpaste or muscle brush, it can allow you to go and add these thin layers on top. And this is really the most important part when you have layer upon layer of voxel layers. And it allows you to then, using other tools like a smudge brush, to convert it into this kind of expressive mass of overlaying clay. Yeah, smudge it a bit more. Again, here I'm using curve brush because I kind of lost the lips at all. I wouldn't say that the whole head in the end was a perfect anatomy study, but it gives a great idea of how to use some of these tools to create something unusual. When I showed this final renders to my friends, everybody thought that I was like some realistic sculpture and like a real world sculpture, metal stuff, metal casts, because something that I haven't really seen people done in ZBrush at this level, because or in any other sculpting software, because it's just not possible to do it so easy. It's not possible to cut through the mesh so easy as this curve brush allows you to. 3D Code has pretty powerful brush controller, and I would definitely tell to go and check out the options for that, because you can change the jiggle of it, rotation, or and all the randomization options to it. You can kind of see that I already got pretty much the final result from the render in this short start. I'll just fiddling around, trying different variations a lot, probably even too much. But because this technique was pretty much new for me, as hopefully new for you, so I was really keen to try more and more and more, and it took me longer than it should really. So yeah, right now I'm inside this like expert mode inside 3D Code, because I'm only using a handful of brushes, so I can just press tab and hide everything out of view. Just trying to get some kind of emotion and lip placement in place. Here I just changed, so I'm using a scrape brush. So the scrape brush does this a bit of a polish. So if you were to do kind of like a medieval shield or something that's been hand made using a lot of hammering, I would use a scrape brush to do that 100% of the time. It gives that exactly that look that some copper made shield or helmet would have. Again, covering the places I've already covered before, which are kind of fine, but you just keep modifying and see what's better. Oh, now I'm using the muscle brush. So the muscle brush gives you a slightly more organic look, I think, than the toothpaste. And here I've started to switch to these kind of metallic materials, because they were really the look I was going for. And once I turned it on, it really became much clearer for me what I'm trying to achieve. Or like much clearer for me to see the final result, instead of just using the clay render, and that clay render doesn't really give you the final representation. The thing is that I rendered inside 3D Code. 3D Code gave me a pretty nice render. I also tried some renders in Keyshot, but in Keyshot I just didn't want to spend time at the materials to look like the one in 3D Code. Because since 3D Code was giving me a really nice render, I just stick to 3D Code default render for this project. And also using the F5 hotkey, which allows you to cast shadows and not to have the default lighting. So cast shadow lighting, it kind of slows down everything quite a bit, but it's so nice that I really like to have it. So you'll see me just doing the whole thing, the same thing over and over again, just using a curve brush a bit randomly, then doing a touch up using this smudge tool. The toothpaste gives you the nice chiseled, handcrafted look. So if we were to do a medieval armor again, toothbrush looks pretty good. Maybe toothbrush with a scrape tool to get you that really nice texture of handmade metallic part. So this was still the time when I haven't chopped off the half of the head and kept modifying the haircut. You can see here it's doing some really amazing stuff. It's like cutting through the mesh and gets these three-dimensional layers of stuff above each other. So I was like, pressing just control and moving my toothbrush around the hair and getting all those small crevices, like holes and gaps underneath the essentially the haircut. So here I turned off the symmetry. I was trying to introduce asymmetrical stuff around the body, around the head. One of the things, okay, here you can see I've just cycled through materials, essentially clay material and material without the real-time shadows, and you could have seen that it doesn't look that impressive. So, but I mean, you can see here the render is starting to show some of the detail. Just looking at the render, I had the look of it. It's been a bit too soft, so I wanted to add a little bit more edginess and sharpness and overlay of. If you imagine it would be pouring iron cast, then you would have some pretty cool parts of the model that would have had this thin layers of material, thin layers of iron. And I didn't see that in the render I've done, so now I'm trying to introduce that in the model. Some real good overlays. And you can see now this. I get this pretty cool organic texture of metal cast. So cow brush and toothbrush, muscle brush, one on top of another. I don't know which resolution is the best for that, so I'm working at, you can see, at 4 million triangles for the whole bust. It's a bit sufficient for me, but because in this balance of productivity and resolution, maybe going up to 10 million would have been still pretty good a way of treating it. Yeah, I spent a fair amount of time doing this haircut over and over again. So this is a bit better render than what I had before. Yeah, definitely getting cool shapes around different parts of the body, which is a bit more random and unpredictable. And you can see it's all done, usually pretty much done by stock brushes. Nothing, haven't really tweaked anything that much. Again, getting some holes in to get some overlay and play of shadow on the cheeks. I think lips turned out to be the most challenging part of the model. Don't know really why, but I've redone them a lot. And the haircut is my favorite part. I'm doing that. So every time I use a move tool, it slightly smoothed out the whole mesh, which is not always desirable, but in this particular case, it was all right because it helped to add a bit more liquidity to the shapes. And you could really say that it's pretty much done at this point. Mm, and everything else I was doing was just testing different variant and different ideas. The technique was such a big fun to play around that I was just couldn't stop myself. Yeah, it's like applying a completely different style of hair, and I can't really say it's better than what I had before. So, nah, not really better. Tweaking the lips as usual. And here I had the first idea that it might look great if I just cut out the head and make it a bit more cooler. So I'm using box height, pretty much my favorite 3D code tool, and I'm getting these shapes which I think really get the stuff to look really striking, honestly. And this is this kind of crazy powerful combination of 3D code using this kind of expressive tools, then combining with vox height to get something really original out of it. So now I'm trying just to destroy the ears. I'm trying to see if I can get some cool layering results if I hide bits and then unhide over a certain angle. And I kind of failed. Yeah, my favorite part, the lips. So I have this pretty cool dots here and there that which are left this little dents pretty deep, and they create a really cool shadow play. You can see in the corner of the mouse and in the middle of the mouse. They're definitely the parts that I want to keep inside inside it. So now get pretty sweet layering on top of each other. And I was trying to see if I could get those little bumps as well in other parts of the model, so you can see these little holes, which I really liked before. Started to introduce them more and more. Right, just looking at front and seeing if I could get a better silhouette. Something a bit crazy. Oh, I like this one. I really like this scar that like just cuts through the whole head and breaks it in half. It was really brutal. Every now and then I press a hotkey that deletes the hidden polygons. So here I'm doing the shell because I wanted to. I was thinking about a combination of two parts, because essentially there's the outer shell and the inner part. If you make an outer shell which has really thin parts, it will have a lot of holes, and you'll create yourself an extra second layer of coating on top of the original model. And that's really where I got a lot of this melt look, like so much of it. Because now the much brushed, creating the miracles of modifying the mesh and kind of melting it on top of another mesh. You can see here it's like being eaten by termites. Maybe a bit too much, so I think I reduced it, reduced it a little bit. in the end. So I'm cutting through and I can see the shell that I have. And I wanted to see, like what if I have this big caches in the body and how they will look. And now you see I have applied a gold to the background material, and just want to see how it will look if I put one on top of another. So the gold helps me to just differentiate between the two sculpts, the two layers, up one and down one. So now they're like two layers at the same time. And I'm just playing around with modifying the top layer and overlaying the bottom. So, this is like a kind of second level complexity when you start to introduce these shells on top of each other. Some stuff looked a bit too scary, so I didn't want to push it too much. The dove was a bit off, so now I'm trying to regulate the dove plane. Yeah, it's much closer to what I have in the end. So scale down the beneath layer, scale down, so scaling up the upper layer, hiding all of it, so I created a new layer on top. It's actually a pretty cool effect, which I could have kept, of having this kind of crack and layering upon layering of the body, of the head. But I don't think I really kept it. It was just a bit too challenging to get a really nice proper line. It became probably a bit messy in my eyes. But obviously you can add layers upon layers and create a lot of layering and depth to this whole thing. So doing a lot of unhides. Yep, so now it's this whole head has a lot of history of modification, which I think it shines through. A lot of weathering and added texture on top of texture, a lot of custom made stuff. So I tried to add an iris, which you like in traditional sculptures, and it kind of looked okay, but just the eyeballs at the art not that bad, and I kept the eyeballs. I've tried pretty hard trying to get them looking right. So I had that plane of the sky, which just looked a bit too perfect, so I decided to weather it a little bit with the Kausha toothpaste. Right, so modifying the neck. All right, okay, getting quite near. So this is where I started to throw also some of this really big brush strokes to hide cracks and see what can I do just to relax a little bit and just destroy what I've done to see if it's any good. Getting some deep holes through the whole head. Yeah, I wasn't too happy about it, but the thing is, when you do the hide and then you move stuff around and you unhide stuff, it will be unhidden in the place where you've added, so you get this double layering still. Um, it's pretty cool and pretty intricate. So it's something like that is a bit hard to achieve by other means. So yeah, hiding stuff, moving around, unhiding is always an option. It's like masking in certain ways, like a masking inside a ZBrush. You can see here like getting a similar result by hiding it, moving a little bit, and getting this nice crevice around that, quite organic and crispy and like sharp. Really quite cool. So I have a pretty good knowledge and deep knowledge of few tools inside 3D Code and their behavior. That really helps to achieve, I think, pretty interesting and unique results, which I haven't seen anybody else showing. And this is a shame because I think 3D Code got so much potential, and I wish it was a bit more widespread in the industry. Alright, so I'm just modifying the top of the head. So you can see when I have some bits hanging in the air, I usually apply either a walk side or cut tool, or I just smooth them out of the existence. You can just smooth, it will just disappear. So when I did this really broad hide, by accident I hid away so much of the head that it started to look cool. So I was like, oh wow, that's actually, maybe there's something to it. Maybe I should do a hide and get that really bizarre, silhouette, strong silhouette in place. And that's pretty much what I ended up doing. I'm getting holes. And I was quite happy that this hollow model, I managed to print it on a regular like FFD printer quite well. All these parts held together, held in place, which is really quite spectacular. You would normally want to have a resin printer for that, but resin So the 3D printers is a bit dangerous too, and has a lot of hassle. So here I'm really starting to get the renders I really like. So we'll see how you can see how many backup layers I have. I always create backup layers. So I can merge some certain bits if they don't go right. It's a really common practice I do on all of my projects. Just a kind of safety measure, so I don't have to open an old file, then re-export it and re-import it in other scene. Takes so much time. So I just prefer to have background backup layers, which end of the day sometimes, well, quite often you have to then delete because you get too many of them and it gets a bit confusing what's what. But yeah, backup layering is just the thing I do all the time. All right, so I'll try the different alpha with the toothbrush, which is like a scraping on. Didn't really like it, so switched to hiding and unhiding. Again, hide tool allows you to get this really deep random cuts through the whole mesh, and really treat it as not a piece of geometry, but a piece of like freeform freeform clay. And when you have this, I really dig into this rendering that they have in 3D code. That this real time is quite amazing, to be honest. It really makes you feel like you're having a piece of metal in your hands, which you just modifying, and that's just so helpful. So hopefully, I'm quite confident in future I'll have proper workshop. I'll rent like a maybe big place, buy a big place, and I'll be able to good garage space. Be able to also do this by my own hands. It's kind of a bit of a dream in future. Yep. Here again, I dropped a lot of curve brushed a lot of bits and then smudged them together so they kind of melted into the metal behind, to all the voxel behind, overlaid randomly. And just keep on cutting, keep on smudging. Nothing new. But every cut, every little bit adds a bit of history to the whole model. Obviously, there's always a balance how much you want to add, and is it really profitable to put too much. But I think ended up pretty well. getting more deeper, like liquid cut into the eye. Also, the smudge tool is pretty cool. I think you'll see it later. If you smudge to one point, it starts to bulge up and like burst. It's quite cool, especially if the mesh is thin, like we have it now. So it becomes this like frozen, a bulb frozen in steel. So I'm trying to thin out the mesh by hiding all of it and then unhiding the walls. Again, adding the scarring by hiding and unhiding elements. Because maybe if you've seen my other videos where I used unhide tool mostly really for hard surface stuff, but really applicable to almost everything. So did this brutal cut through the whole ear. And then I move it slightly so it gets a bit more organic, a bit more melted. And again, moving it softs the voxels. You can also see that brush carving I had. I think it's the brush carving. It gets this texture there. It's almost looks like fingerprints quite often, like something that's been smudged by hand, like lead, looking quite cool. It just when I do this, it's so much fun. I just had to stop. You just keep on adding all that little detail, and you can see my symmetry is off. So I'm always just making a symmetrical model and doing test runs all the time. That edge environment that I'm using there probably isn't the best one, but it's okay. Again, trying to get an iris in place, and again didn't like it. And well, the unhide essentially is your undo. You hide stuff, then unhide, and yep, you fixed it. Also, often the way I originally started doing the backup layers was because the delete all hidden voxels button wasn't always that reliable unless you actually duplicated the layer, and the new duplicated layer wouldn't have any hidden voxels for sure. Because sometimes what happens is that you press the delete voxels button and you no longer can unhide anything, but if you change the resolution of the model and go up like by 1 million triangles, it will unhide everything. So in that way, when I duplicate it, I always know that it's been a clean duplicate and nothing else been hidden. Oh yeah, you can see that I got that little pimple on the forehead, little burst, like if there was a bubble of air that was in the cast that burst out and got this cool stuff. So I'm trying to make another one, but I was failing to do it. Yeah, okay, yeah, just the mesh there is too thick, so I wasn't able to do it. But you can see it does a great job on the edges, so the edges become really well crafted. So yeah, Smudge tool does this fairly unpredictable results when you have different type of like structure underneath. That like layering on the forehead is probably my favorite. That double like pimple, like burst bubble, and then that other hole. I think it is my perfect part of the model because this is the stuff is so complex. If you imagine any other sculpting software to create that, I think it's just impossible because it's just too hard. But maybe I'm wrong. So if you think I'm wrong, just give me an example of different software. Check it out. So you can see here I changed the alpha for the smudge brush. I'm using some bricks so to see if I can get a different one, different look. I wanted to make this hole a bit bigger because it's almost the same as a pimple. And I just melted the edges a little bit more. The key was kind of in subtlety, just adding a more and more bit here, a little bit there, and yeah, getting to the result. So yeah, this was my favorite bit right here. Multiple layer melt. Changing the doff plane. Actually, not sure about my field of view, and I think there was for 1 second Photoshop appeared, but it got back. So here I was kind of happy with the whole bit mostly, and just doing test renders and seeing what's missing. Or is it good enough to go? And I decided it's just, yeah, it's good enough. Well, except maybe for a couple of small bits. I just had some ideas about tears because the guy started to look pretty unhappy, right? With half of the head. Nobody will be happy about it, so I'll try to add some tears, drawing them on top. But they just looked weird, looked like tentacles, and I just, yeah, whatever. Don't want to do it. And the lips, back to the lips. You can see I've deleted all the backup layers, so I'm just creating new layers to sculpt on top of the existing head, which is a cool feature of 3D code. When that every time you create a new layer, you can sculpt on top. It automatically snaps to the bottom layer, which is kind of amazing. Saves a lot of effort. Okay, so I printed this stuff on my 3D printer and the 3 Pro. Took about 15 hours, even there was a mosquito who died inside. It was a really long print. Then the supports here were pretty strong, so it took me maybe 20 minutes to cut them out. I think the result is still pretty cool for FFD printer. It's not a resin print. I don't really have a resin printer, maybe I'll buy it later on. Here you can see I was cutting out supports from the inside. I cut out everything. The quality actually is really good for this type of printers, and I mean it's only like $250 American dollars. So you can see the insides were like supposed to be all like that. All the little thin parts of the mesh have been printed perfectly, and all the little holes there are they're all here. And you can see like in a different lighting, it kind of repeats all of those beats from the render. So it's quite amazing the result I got. Here I'm inside a free slicer software that prepares the model for printing, the software called Cura. You can see here I just imported the OBJ and then press the button to slice, and it gives me this preview of the stuff it's going to create. So this is all the structure, all the layer and all the supports that it's making. And you can rotate the model in different directions to get the best slicing options. I will talk much more about 3D printing and doing stuff with 3D prints in future, because it was quite a big aim of buying the printer to talk about it. And this is not really the project I wanted to dedicate my time talking about it, but it's cool to show that there's some really complex sculpts that you can do on Ender 3 Pro if you want to. And okay, thank you guys for watching, and see you next time. And don't forget, I have this limited promo code offer. Check it in the description.